Hello and welcome back to WRRAP. The URC is finally here after a long wait. How will our teams go in round one? Tune in to find out. Hello and welcome to WRRAP. Once again, it's me, Harley, in the hot seat. I am joined by the wonderful Dan, Hattie, and Nick. How are we all doing? It feels like only minutes ago you were recording.
Deja vu.
Good, thanks.
All right.
Excellent. So I don't know about anyone else, but I'm keen for this new URC season to kick off because it could be our last. Anyway, but before all that, Nick, what's on the never-ending news desk?
Okay, we'll start off with the Newcastle Red Bulls. They've signed Wales fullback Liam Williams on a one-year contract. The 34-year-old has 89 caps, the last one being out in Paris at the start of this year's Six Nations. I don't think he played after that, but he was with the Saracens, but obviously left there at the end of the season. So, any views on Liam extending his career?
It's obviously good for him because you're going to have a bit of a payday up there, would have thought, of some description. Now Red Bulls come in and taking over Newcastle, which, by the way, I think is fantastic. The more of that can happen in rugby, it's the sort of investment that I think we need. Not just from a cash perspective, but obviously they've got a performance sport background at Red Bulls. So I think good on them. I hope it makes a massive difference to rugby in the true north of England. In terms of Sanjay, like I said, good on him, but is it really good business from a Newcastle perspective? Unfortunately, his injury profile isn't great over the last few years. It's not as if you're signing someone who's bomb-proof and is going to play X amount of fixtures. I don't think he's retired from international rugby either. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I don't think so.
But I don't think he's retired from international rugby. So Newcastle could go and get him fit, plays well, and all of a sudden he's back in the Wales squad and he picks up a bump. And I think we were talking about it in our WhatsApp group the other day, and I'd be surprised if he plays 10 fixtures, if I'm honest. But I hope I'm wrong. I hope he goes all season injury free. And ultimately, if that's the case, and you're basing it purely on rugby playing ability, then it's a top marquee signing for them. And he could perform well enough to gain himself another year on top of that. It is all down to whether Liam can stay injury free or not, in my opinion.
Yeah, there is that, with our golden generation, so to say, a lot of them are probably paying significantly past their best, and going on to try and sign these big contracts overseas. And I can't blame them because they wouldn't have necessarily been making the money that their English, Irish, French counterparts would have been making. But it's just sad to see somebody who was great sort of peter out in the way that we're watching with him, even Dan Bigger slightly. Alan Wynne-Jones probably could have retired a couple of years earlier than he did. Just a bit sad to see, really, isn't it?
Okay, moving on. The Scarlets, and when we were last pod, we were talking about the Scarlets, and one player we didn't, I think, really mention was Josh McLeod, but I thought he was outstanding last year, and it was great to see him have a full season because he's another player who's had a lot of injuries over the years. But he, quite understandably, will continue as club captain for the Scarlets for the forthcoming season. Happy about that, Hattie?
Yeah, I think it's a good option. I mentioned it sort of in our preview. We don't necessarily have any particular leadership options in our backs. I think he's probably the best choice in our forwards, and I think as a contingency plan, something we've mentioned before, I think he's probably a solid choice, and I think he will probably be a captain or the captain for a while. It's not a surprise to me that he was named at all. I sort of expected it, and was actually more surprised that they bothered making an announcement rather than just continuing.
And finally, obviously the WRU consultation will now enter its final week, and I think it finishes on the 26th of September. Can I just urge anybody who hasn't responded to the survey? I know there are a lot of concerns about the questions, but there is an open text box at the end. So I would urge anybody, please, to express their views in writing and make sure that at least you have you feel that you've made a contribution and something that the WRU will need to consider. They've told us this week they're going to be explaining the financial situation in the meetings, and they have scheduled meetings, and also in their general communication, which tends to come out very early in the week. So we'll look forward to that. One of the things I would really ask them to do is that we would really welcome a statement on the naming rights for the stadium. We're all aware that the renewal for the sponsorship is at the end of this year, 2025. So surely those conversations are taking place. For all we know, perhaps a contract has already been signed, and it would only be right and proper for the WRU to make that clear to us as fans and to the nation.
I couldn't agree more, Nick. I think you're spot on with that. And I know we've banged this drum on the pod for a little while now, but I'm of the opinion that anything less really than a Twickenham style deal is a failure, is a commercial failure on behalf of the stadium and the union. In that, yes, Twickenham's in London, however, it hosts mainly rugby events and rugby events only, albeit they do have the Prem Grand Final there and so on and so forth. But as we've spoken about previously, you have all the autumn internationals, all the Six Nations internationals. We've hosted Champions League Cup finals. We've hosted World Wrestling Entertainment. We've hosted concert after concert after concert. Sorry, that is, worldwide events, global superstars. And ultimately, I think it's more on the map in terms of an overall, I don't know what's the word I'm looking for, functional venue, exactly that. It's more than just a rugby venue. So anything less than a Twickenham style deal, which for listeners that are unaware, was 100 million quid over 10 years. I think we've been let down, personally. I don't know whether you guys got any thoughts on that.
No, I agree. I think it's an iconic stadium. So
simple as that. Simple as that. And this, you imagine now, mate, 100 million, extra 10 million quid a year in the coffers. Again, we've said before, the number that's been banded around, Wales Online and so on and so forth, is there's a 35 or 37 million quid shortfall in the game as a whole to do the things that they want to fund the men's pro teams effectively as a starter for 10. So imagine what you could do with that extra 10 million quid a year.
Yeah, and that's as we've said before, let's just be transparent about that. And that's the news.
Cool. We've got a little bit of the women's side sort of injury news after the World Cup. This wasn't released by the WRU itself, it was released by players, so there's potentially less that we know than if it had been an official release. But captain Alex Callender, who also plays for Harlequins, she had surgery, I believe, on like an ankle. As I said, it wasn't released by the WRU, so we're sort of led down to whatever the players have put on social media. And obviously, if they want to be a little bit cryptic, they can be. So she had surgery on that. That's been an ongoing issue for her for like the last year or so. So glad that she finally got to have that issue fixed. Karen Lake, our sort of veteran centre, a lot of people are expecting her to retire because we haven't seen a lot of her this year. She played for Gwalia Lightning last year. As well, she had, I believe, a shoulder surgery, and then finally it was released, I believe yesterday, Lisa Neumann confirmed that she actually sustained a broken wrist during the first World Cup game, and then continued to play for the rest of the World Cup on a broken wrist. So she will be out for the foreseeable at Harlequins as well. There won't be any Wales matches until the Six Nations, so we're not really looking at any issues with international duty. It will primarily be club games, and with Karen losing her again, probably for Gwalia Lightning when they start back up, I'm assuming in December.
That's one thing I would like to point out, that we haven't had any confirmation how Challenge Cup's going to happen, what they've decided to do with the teams this season, if they are going to be hosted, are they going to be pro? So that whilst whilst you're looking at communications for stadium deal, if you could update us on the women's game and actually have more of an
Yeah.
established plan of the women's game and how it interacts with your men pro sides, that would be really helpful.
Yeah,
As
so we
opposed to
know
just
that
tacking on and saying we're just copying and pasting.
we're still going to have for this year it will still be Gwalior and Brython. The Gwalior players, I'm assuming there must be stuff going on behind the scenes because the Gwalior players have set up their own Instagram, which at first you're like, oh, this is great, that there's finally an Instagram for the team, and then you realise that it's the players doing it themselves, because the WRU hasn't put any interest into doing it. So we are getting a bit of information off that. Obviously, there's nothing for Brython. So yeah, it's just a bit pants, really. I have no idea when it's going to start. No idea where the venues are. Yeah, hopefully I'll have some news soon to report. But for now, it's just a bit up in the air.
That's a fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a wonderful note for me to now do the bit where I have to try and encourage you, the listeners, to like and subscribe. Big kudos to the 2,000 people who have subscribed to the WRRAP YouTube channel. Thank you very
2001.
much.
Don't forget
We
that
are
one.
to 2001. I wanted to just keep it as the round number. Thank you, Hattie. But as we've now broken 2,000, we're now aiming for 2,500. So please tell a friend if you're enjoying this, or if you're not, make them suffer. I don't know what your relationships are like. I won't assume. And I would like to especially mention over on our sister channel, Global Game 9, the Mall Street Journal, the American Rugby Pod, as both Julia and David from the album David by Busted. We're very upset that I forgot to mention them. The fact I forgot to mention about 80% of the podcast that Lee currently runs is relevant. But if you're enjoying, please like, subscribe. If you don't like it, just leave a comment to the channel, and share the audio podcast with everyone. And keep going. And even if it's just comments saying, get rid of that idiot in the vaguely science t-shirts, because, I don't care. So I just find them funny. Anyway, moving on to what the actual business, what we actually like talking about, rugby. So the URC is finally back. We've had the fixtures for quite a while, which is unusual for something involving Welsh rugby to be so far ahead. So round one, we're kicking off on Friday Night Lights at 8:05. That classic of all kickoff times. Ulster versus Dragon at the Kingsbank Murderdome Stadium. Dan, do you want to kick off as your team is kicking off the season?
Yeah, so we visit the old Ravenhill, I suppose, as the Kingspan Stadium.
Is it still is it still Kingspan, or has it not changed names again? I think it's the Affidia or something.
Yeah, it's
I have
got a new
not
name.
kept up.
It's got a new name. It's got a new sponsor, but I couldn't tell you what it's called.
Yeah, it's only because they had Irish women's internationals there this summer, and they kept saying this word, and I didn't know what it was.
Right.
So what we're saying is Ulster have been able to name their stadium, and we haven't yet.
That's right.
The Principality, that's a good start. Well done, Ulster. 1-0 already to the Irish over the Wasps. It's not hard when it comes to the union stuff, but okay, Ulster. I've had a little look actually at Ulster's comings and goings over the off season, and they've lost the likes of John Cooney at scrum half. He's gone over to Breve. I think that's a big loss for them because whilst he may not have been a starter week in, week out, vastly experienced scrum half and a prolific goal kicker. And that for me is worth his weight in gold, having someone that you can rely on with an 85% plus success rate. So Cooney going, I think, will be a bit of a big loss. The other one that stood out for me, I think, was Kieran Treadwell, the lock. He's gone back to Harlequins, my understanding. Still relatively young in the boiler house at 29 years of age. Maybe they'll miss him over the coming season. I don't know. Time will tell. They have recruited fairly well. I think the two standouts for me are Wano Augustus from Northampton, big massive ball carrier, South African, number 8, can play number 6 as well. And at 27 years of age, I think his age profile is really good. You get a good 4, maybe 5 seasons out of him with extensions if his form and injuries allow. So he's a real standout signing for me and someone that the Dragons are going to have to watch out for. on Friday night because he's a gain line specialist, and as we know, collisions win games. And the other one is interesting signing that you probably all would have heard of is Angus Bell, the ball carrying loose head prop from Australia, has signed for Ulster. I don't think he's going to be available for this weekend because he's still at the Rugby Championship, whereby the Wallabies are playing the All Blacks, which in fairness has turned out to be a fantastic championship this year, where they're all on. I think they're all on play 2, 1, 2, lost 2. I think in the Rugby Championships is all to play for. So they'll be Angus Bell free, but there's still plenty of experience knocking through their squad. But I just think if there's any time to play Ulster, it may be now. I don't know. I don't expect, if I'm honest, I'll name my colours to the mast now. I don't expect the Dragons to go to Ulster and win on Friday night. I think it may be a step too far, but what I am looking for is a performance, not the usual go over to Ireland and ship 30 points and score 6 or 10, and for it to be a routine bonus point win. I'd like for the Dragons to come away with something, and I think based on our squad acquisitions this season, there's no reason why we can't come away with a couple of bonus points from the weekend. I would really like to see our attack sort of get into a position where we are a genuine try-scoring threat week in, week out. And obviously, I think we've built a pack that is capable of winning enough ball, winning enough collisions, and has such enough gain line in order to compete in this fixture. It's a tough start away on a Friday night out in Ulster. They like their rugby over in Belfast. It'll be a packed house. I got no doubt about that. But for those that are unaware, the Dragons, for example, could put out a pack including Wyn Jones, British Lion, Welsh International, Elliot Dee, Welsh International, Dylan Lewis, Welsh International. In the second rows, it could be Seb Davis, Ben Carter, injury dependent. We haven't seen Seb Davis yet this season, I don't think. But again, both Welsh internationals. Thomas Young, Welsh international. Aaron Wainwright, Welsh international. Shane Lewis Hughes, Solomon
Welsh
Funak,
international.
Welsh international. You know this, and this is where I know everyone now listening to Dragons fans go, Dan, it's the hope that's going to kill you. But when you reel off a pack like that, being backed up then by the likes of Rodrigo Martinez off the bench, Rob Hunt off the bench, Brody Coughlin off the bench, Levi Douglas off the bench, Solomon Funaki, Harry Keddy off the bench, Mackenzie Martins featured well in pre-season, all coming off of, there's plenty of gain line, plenty of experience, and plenty of good rugby players that I don't think we have an excuse now. If we keep the injury situation at the bare minimum, everyone's going to pick up bumps. It's been catastrophic over the last couple of seasons in the Gwent region, but ultimately, I think there's enough there for us to go and trouble enough teams this season to work our way up the ladder. And I'm hoping for a performance on Friday night from the men of Gwent.
One thing I think that does go in Dragons' favour is actually you've mentioned how experienced a lot of those teams are, and Ulster aren't. Like losing Cooney and Kieran Treadwell are quite bad because they have lost a key and they're quite a young side. They do have some absolutely fantastic talent. So Kumak Izachuku, who's been around for a while, whether he plays the six or lock, is pretty good. You still have the likes of Ian Henderson, who he's basically been more of an island player. I think he may not be the most flashy lock, but he gets through his work and he's an experienced head.
Mm-hmm.
But there are an awful lot of quite it's effectively the coaches pick under 20s boys he knows, and using this more as development, as Ulster have had their own financial issues, and they've had to start leaning more on academy talent than big signings. So they still seem to find money to sign international props. I think this could be a really good good chance for Dragons, but again, we say this quite often most years. So
yeah, look, if I'm sat here next week and the Dragons have lost, but they've gone down, they've gone out on their shields, they've gone out fighting, we've troubled them, we've scored maybe 4 tries, come within 7, picked up 2 bonus points away from home. I'd be well happy with that, if I'm honest. It's all about the performance for me. We saw that the Dragons dispatched a Hartbury team, as you would expect. I think it was 40 odd points to whatever, and beat the Scarlets. But pre-season fixtures, lots of changes, and so on and so forth. It's hard to get a judge. We should have a bit of stability. Hopefully, Philo will have in his mind now what he thinks his best starting 15 is for this fixture and ultimately what the match day squad's going to look like. I think we're just waiting on a bit of injury news around Tom Young, sorry, who picked up a calf strain, is my understanding, and Seb Davis. We haven't seen much of Seb Davis, so we haven't had no news as yet as to what the sort of squad makeup may be based on injury profile at the moment. So fingers crossed that we're doing okay. Ulster dispatched an Edinburgh team, apparently a weekend Edinburgh team, a young Edinburgh team, by 30 odd points to 19 a couple of weeks ago. Again, you can't read too much into it, but it just does go to show that, Ravenhill or Kingspan, whatever it's called these days, Belfast is a tough place to go. And if you're not on your mettle, you could get put away. So, yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll do okay. Dale McLeod's been in, the Dragons' new defence coach, has been out in the press saying that this season's target for him is to make the playoffs. The lofty heights of eighth and above. He's a believer. And he thinks that the Dragons are capable of doing it based on what he's seen since being in camp. Now, I'm sure everyone else screaming at him is the hope that kills you, Dale. But I kind of like that ambition from within the squad. Ultimately, you need to set goals and you need to set targets. And if the target's just to, not finish last, then it's not the best target in the world, is it? For me, from a leadership perspective, you want to be setting targets that are reasonable. And I think based on the playing squad that we've brought together and the talent that is now within it, finishing in the top half of the table isn't unreasonable, I don't think, purely on paper. I know there's a lot of different things that come into the makeup of a successful season, but on paper, I think we've got very little excuse. And I think, if you aim for the stars and reach the clouds, then you ain't doing too bad. So, yeah, good on him for being positive. I hope that's sort of seeping into the playing team as well and the playing personnel. And yeah, I think it's do or die for the Dragons now. Everyone's aware of the situation in Wales. I got no doubt they're playing for jobs, they're playing for contracts. Go out on your shields, boys. Go and deliver this weekend, whatever the result. Let's have a performance off you. I don't know what you guys think.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the rugby starting
Mm.
after all the other things we have had to talk about. So I'm really looking forward to it. And I think it's no one's expecting too much of the Dragons at Ulster, but Ulster have been brilliant, and I think Hattie alluded to it as well. I don't think everything's perfect as people think in Ireland either, and be interested to see if any or both of the Tongans feature. Obviously, Pia was playing for Tonga at the weekend, so probably not in his case.
Can't see him, no.
No, Anisi maybe. I don't think he was in the squad, so I'm looking forward to seeing if he was to have a run out, even off the bench. Yeah, so I think it should be a really cracking game.
And that's all we can hope for, isn't it? How many times have you sat on the sofa and watched the Dragons on a Friday evening, and by half time you go in, game's over.
Yeah.
It's sort of Dragons are going in sort of 26 or 28-7 down, and you go, there's no way they're coming back now. It's not, it's just not in their nature, and a team that generally falls off towards the second half. So, yeah, I just hope that we can put a 23 on the field or on a match day squad out that's reflective of the signings that we've made. And then and if that's the case, you're gonna see a team with genuine international pedigree in it, which I think for the first time in a Gwent shirt, we haven't seen that. So it'll be interesting. Like I said to you last week on the preview pod, I think away from home, there's still too many tough away fixtures for the Dragons to go and be overly competitive and think about winning. We're away at Ulster, it's a tough place to go. But I think the Sharks the following week it is one that we could target, especially due to the international stuff. And then, we go away to Glasgow, which should be another tough away fixture. The home fixtures for me this season are key. If we can make Rodney Parade a fortress, pick off some scalps, then we'll be all right this season, and maybe we'll recognise Dale's ambition of being in the playoffs. So I don't know how I feel about that yet, but yeah, good luck to the lads, and I hope we can go and get some sort of performance out of it.
Excellent.
One thing it'd just be worth noticing, especially with your performances, is remember. So first of all, 9 games is good enough to be in the shout for the playoffs. Winning 9 games, you have 9 games at home. You have 3 further games in Wales, so you don't really. I mean, the Ospreys have done this quite successfully for seasons in the past as well, where they almost write off the further away trips, use them for development opportunities, and focus purely on the games in Wales. It doesn't always come off, but you don't need that much. You don't need to win every game in the league to make playoffs and then go on from there.
Yeah,
I think what would be helpful for the Dragons though is if they could pick up bonus points, and it's not, bring those losses down, so they're not losing. Like, I think at one point last season, Dragons conceded 10 consecutive 30-point plus losses. Not necessarily the losing margin, but like they conceded over 30 points in 10 consecutive games.
Yeah,
and hopefully now they've got a full-time defence coach, that's going to improve.
It fell off
because if you keep doing that, you don't deserve to be up in the playoffs.
Yeah,
And Cardiff is the same.
No, I know, and it fell off a cliff a little bit last year, didn't it, after the Di Flanagan exit. When you look at those early results, apart from Leinster away, really, Dragons were in plenty of fixtures. It was close to 2 South African teams that came to Rodney Parade. The reality is we should have won those fixtures, and we didn't. That's rugby. The history books will only say that we didn't, and ultimately we were the worst team in the league last season, and rightly so too, rightly so. But it just seems a little bit. This season's squad is markedly different to last season's. There's no doubt about that. The makeup of the squad is totally different. For me, last season we lacked collision winners. We lacked gain line. It's really hard to attack when you're working backwards all the time, or you're playing side to side and you're not getting any go forward. I think we should win enough gain line this year to get the backs playing a little bit, and then it'll come down to whether they've been coached well enough to be able to execute that. So, and I see what you're saying. You've only got to win a certain amount, and look, ultimately, it may be one of those seasons for the Dragons where things are not quite as rosy as we thought they were in Ireland, and a couple of those teams drop off, and maybe there's a bit of a drop off from one of the Scottish teams, and Zebra were going and now they're not going, and ultimately maybe they're the whipping boys, and we can pick up those wins as we come along. What I don't want to do though is I don't want to be in the same position as Cardiff were a couple of seasons ago with the first season under Jockey, where it was like, we were almost like plucky runners up. I think Cardiff, didn't they have the most losing bonus points in the league that season? And whilst the performances were brilliant, I just don't want to be necessarily in that position where we should be turning those results into wins.
Yeah, I feel like the next season then we did start turning some of those results into wins. The problem for me was last season was we were turning some of those close losses into wins, but then there were other games where now slightly worse losses became really bad losses, and I think that's the big thing. But anyway, we're not talking about Cardiff just yet. We are going to move on to Ospreys, who kick off their season and with a South Africa tour away in Pretoria, with the ball up against the Bulls. I genuinely cannot think of a worse opening fixture. I'd love to know Nick's opinion, and before bring you in, Nick, just wonder your opinion on how you think they're going to do the squad. Is it going to just be a full-on mini tour, get your full team out off the bat, extra preseason, or are you going to be throwing the kids at this?
A bit of both, I think. Realistically, they flew out, I think, this evening from Heathrow. Obviously, you've got the added stress, pressure of playing at altitude as well in Pretoria. So that'll be interesting. It's a really, really hard game. I think we talked in the pod before last that how we have only had the one warm-up game. So I think we're very undercooked. And what a place to go. We've actually called this game the David Creel Trophy. I don't know, he's the 6'5", 16-stone centre winger. He usually targets this game for impact. He was man of the match back in 2024, and he rung rings around us in a 60-point hammering we took. And last year, if you remember, at the stadium, it was a close game, but Bulls were by far the better team. He had a red card, so look out for him. I'm sure he'll do something in the game. And just to reiterate, we've never beaten the Bulls. We've beaten, I think, we've beaten all the other South African teams, but we've never beaten the Bulls. They've got some players missing through injury, and obviously they have a lot of players involved in the Springboks who will not be available. So there'll be no Steinkamp, no Lowe, Hanekom, Norger, Kirtley Anderson, Moody, on their new signing, Andre Pollard. They've got a new coach. Johan Ackerman has replaced Jake White, but they just got such huge strength and depth. And for me, I think that's where you're getting at, Harley. I've got them down as equal favourites for the URC title this season. I think they're that strong, they're that good. So I think Mark Jones said that Ryan Smith is not going to feature this week. He might not feature in either game, but he's definitely not featuring in this game. So it'll be very interesting to see our first 23 of the season. Do we do, like a mixture? Because more than anything, I just don't want anybody to get a serious injury. I'm playing on the hard ground at altitude against a very, very physical Bulls team. If we come out of it with that, I'd be delighted. Obviously, I want to see some points, but I'd be absolutely delighted if we get anything out of this game. That's how highly I rate the Bulls, and I think if we've got two games, it's probably the second game that we probably have the better chance of really pulling off a result. And I'm sorry if I sound pessimistic there, but I should think it's just being a little bit realistic as well.
The big problem is it's only a 6-day turnaround for the Stormers as well, which does not help.
No.
And I think as well, going to South Africa for the first two games is that, as you said, like the Ospreys are relatively undercooked. They've only had one preseason game. Yes, the South African teams are going to be missing their international players, but they're probably going to be filling those gaps with players who've been playing in the Currie Cup.
Absolutely.
And, sort of more like mid-season for them, having played those games. So it's probably the worst possible start you could have.
I'm not as pessimistic about it as everybody else. I think if you're going to go, now's the time to go. They have signed the likes of Kirtley Arendse and Andre Pollard, just to name two. They're both going to be away on international duty, as he said, as much as a number of the other squad members are. What do you expect to gain from this tour? Go out there and try and pick up 4 points. You can get 2 bonus points minimum in each game. I think you come back and that's success. I genuinely do. So that would be, if I was Mark Jones, I'd be thinking, right, come on lads, let's go and score 4 tries. Let's go and run the ball around. It's going to be nice and dry. Okay, it's at altitude, but it's not at the end of the season. We've had a rest. We're not all battered and broken like we were at the tail end of last year. Let's go and it's not going to make or break our season if we go 0-2 from the start because of where we are. We can pick up and make up those differences in other fixtures, particularly at home at the Brewery Field, which I think is going to be a massive leveller. Potentially, then what have we got to lose? Go out there, throw it round, try and score 4 tries, and see what you come back with. Give it a go. Absolutely. So, yeah.
I think if is that everyone's opinions done on the Ospreys, in which case it's time for more shameless plugging, and this time it's because Lee has very kindly made us some merch, including for the fans of the Dragons catchphrase, "It's the hope that kills you," that you can buy. The link will be posted down below and on socials as well. But we also have our 4 off t-shirts in honor of the WRU. I believe they're making them specific for all the individual pods, and will be in Welsh for Nick. Or Nick, would you like to tell us what the slogan is in Welsh?
I don't like to swear, but fuck your D.
So if you fancy some merch, I believe there's t-shirts, hats, there's even baby grows. If you happen to
that
know any podcasters who've recently had a child and you think it'd be funny to send them an Ospreys thing for the baby to vomit all over, that would be, feel free. Anyway, back to the rugby. We're going on to our next game now. And so now we move on to 5:30 on Saturday, and that is Scarlets hosting Munster. A game that always usually has something fun on ever since that beautiful final, which I'm sure Munster fans will never let go. So Hattie, Scarlets Munster. Scarlets quite settled. Munster, fair few changes, including new head coach.
Yeah, I think, if you were looking at it and you were looking at positions from last year, positions from the year before, you'd be like, oh yeah, Munster, it's going to be an easy win for them. But whereas we've gone in, we do have some issues. We're going to have issues with our line out just because we're a bit short on hookers, a bit short in second row. But there's a lot going on with Munster. I don't know if any of you have been keeping up with kind of the Munster gossip that's been going on online. Conor Murray came out and sort of slammed them for penny pinching. He's been one of the many who have left Munster in the off season. They've lost Peter O'Mahony, as I said, Conor Murray, Dave Kilcoyne, really big players for them, especially Peter O'Mahony. Like, to lose Peter O'Mahony and Conor Murray at the same time, I think is massive. And I think it could really, really affect them. And then as well, obviously, they've got a new head coach, which is Clayton McMillan, who was previously the head coach for the Chiefs down in New Zealand. I have to be honest, I don't know a whole lot about him. Most of his rugby has been coached down in New Zealand and also in Japan, I believe. So he could come in and he could kind of change the ship around. But I think for his first game and losing some pretty major players, I think this could be a really, really good opportunity for the Scarlets to get a first win in, especially at home as well. So I think it's a good opener for us.
And Munster also have quite often usually have an injury crisis for most of the first half of the season. So
and
you are going to get your licks in.
They don't necessarily have a good first game either. Was it last year? Was it pre-season or was it the first game of the season where they lost to Zebra?
Yeah, so I think last season they lost to Zebra in the first game, or first or second game. And then I think the season before that, I believe they lost to both Cardiff and the Dragons on back-to-back weekends for their opener.
So I am very hopeful for that game. I probably won't be able to watch it live because it's the same day as the World Cup final and I will be in Twickenham. But I am looking forward to it.
Plenty of time to watch it back.
Yes.
I want to take this point that, unfortunately, due to BBC cuts and stuff, I think only the Cardiff game is going to be on S4C Live. The others doesn't look. There'd be highlights about. I think obviously Scrum 5 on Sundays no more, so that highlight show is gone. So your best place to watch these games is to just get a Premier Sports subscription. Think it's £120, but if you wait a couple of weeks, they usually have some sort of promotional offer with it. That drops down to about £90 or £7. I think it even went down to £70 for the Champions Cup. So watch out, discount codes. If we do see any discount codes, we'll share them on our personals and pod socials. Get you through them. In the meantime, I think Scarlet's got a good shot against Munster. To be honest, I think they've got, despite some of their injury woes, Munster are statistically the worst line out. Maybe that part of that is overcomplication, because that's one thing a lot of the fans complained about, was just how unnecessarily intricate a lot of the line out was, and ended up losing it. So I think that's one where you might get away with it. I mean, signing Kirby Myhill, he's probably one of the more reliable throwers Cardiff have had over the years. So you do have that for you. Again, there's some big losses, but again, there's some equally big talismanic names still there. You've got your Gavin Coombs, Calvin Nash,
Casey and Crowley.
I believe Tony Butler. No, Tom is the guy they signed from Cardiff last season, who was just there for them the whole time and seemed to play for more minutes in his entire Connacht career and better. I think you do have some things of that. Again, you've got the Adogbo brothers, who, if they can stay fit, they are units. I think the only thing you can describe about them. It's very big physical locks.
And
I do
I'm
think
assuming
they struggle with front row because they sort of suffer from a similar thing with the WRU, that in the IRFU that you have to fight, beg, and plead for non-Irish qualified players.
and they've lost
And they
quite a
tend
few props as well in the off
Yeah,
season.
some of the
So
experienced ones, yeah.
yeah,
Archer and Kilcoyne are both gone. And Archer 240 provincial appearances, Kilcoyne 196 provincial appearances. And they're the sort of props as well that are not representing Ireland. And as such, you get the week in, week out, solid scrummagers, good set piece, good line out ability in that, they're able to go and sort of be involved in the line out because it's week in, week out. They're not getting calls wrong. The lift is accurate. The lift is good. And I think those are two massive losses. You mentioned Peter O'Mahony. He's out cutting his grass all the time now. Good on him. He's earned his retirement. But again, a big loss. And Conor Murray, because even though he wasn't starting every week, you bring in someone of however many test caps for is he 100 test capper for Ireland? Probably is he, Conor Murray, bringing him off the bench to see the game.
British and Irish Lions captain, to bring him off the bench is not a...
Exactly. Rory Scannell, the centre, is also gone. That's another loss for them. So, yeah, the Scarlets at home, I think Scannell, let me just double check. Yeah, Scannell, 206 Munster appearances. This is vast experience that's being lost from the Munster team, an experience that is there pretty much week in, week out, even during the international window. So,
And I'm
Scar's got a chance.
assuming Tyke Byrne
He won't be playing. He won't be
no.
playing.
So I'm pretty happy about that. As much as I like watching Tyke Byrne play, I'm happy for him not to be playing against the Scarlets.
I think I'm right.
Now's the time. Now's the time to pick up that win.
Yeah.
I think I'm right in saying that in the URC era, the Scarlets have never beaten Munster.
Probably because we've been pretty pants in the URC era.
I think it'd be a good game. I think it'd be a close game. It'd be a very good game. Probably a one-score game either way.
Look,
yeah,
we know
I don't
from
think it's going
last
to be
season. We know from last season that the Scarlets, especially if they're able to go fully loaded on the weekend, have got a good result in them, especially against Irish opposition, having turned over Leinster last
home.
season at Parker Scarlet. So, yeah, why not?
Absolutely, I think I do think it's a good thing. Moving on to the final game of the weekend, Saturday Night Lights, Cardiff hosting Lions. So we seem to last season we seemed to accidentally stumble upon the correct way to play the Lions. They are a very strong counter-attacking team. They target the breakdown heavily and then try and get you on turnovers. They're not the best at structured attack, and so you can pin them back, give them the ball, and then you take your opportunities against them with issue of discipline. Like all South African sides, they have fantastic scrum. No Hamper is a good player. Nyakane is again just about the same width as the average Welsh front row. It's not going to be an easy prospect, particularly with some of the issues we had on field. But I say Cardiff have got a pack that can at least get parity. I think, particularly with bolstering the front row. Sam Wainwright and Hammond Sebastian aren't the most renowned scrummaging tight heads. But, if they can at least hold up their corner of the scrum, we can get the ball in and out. Again, good kicking game. So I think this is where Callum Sheehan and Dylan Lloyd need to be on it. Ben Thomas sharing that thing. The big worry again is because we don't have 13. Harry Millard was admirable towards the end of last season in the 13 channel when Lilo and Grady were out. But you've got to think, as soon as he takes a knock, we're really scraping barrels. So, it should be good for this. I think for this first game, we should be fine. But I think as we start moving deeper into the competition, I think that's when these injuries are going to really stress us.
Yeah.
I don't know
the
if
wheels
you
are going to fall off.
I don't know if you noticed as well, virtually all the Lions team who were likely to be involved on Saturday were involved in the Currie Cup final on last Saturday, and they lost with their last kick of the game in injury time. So it'll be interesting to see how quickly they can recover from that.
Yeah, so they could either be out firing wanton blood, or they could be absolutely crestfallen and singing, traveling the legs. I'm hoping it's the latter. Lions tend to be another team that start quite strong. You know, last season they started off very well in their tour, and then they sort of petered out towards the end. Maybe because they've gone deeper in the Currie Cup this season, you know, they might start off a bit leggier. They don't tend to lose anyone. I mean, any players they are going to lose to the Springboks, they've usually been signed up by one of the other three or a French team.
Yeah.
So, you know,
They actually made the Currie Cup final last season and lost with a last-minute penalty as well.
Yeah, twice, two
So
consecutive years.
they've gone to the final twice. And I'm unsure of the Currie Cup squad makeup. Maybe it would make sense then if they've gone deep in the competition twice, if they're able to keep what is effectively the URC squad together, minus maybe one or two that are going, and you know ultimately they've had a long time together playing in the URC, and then they're able to play against teams that are not as strong as what they would be. Or as connected as they would be in the Currie Cup, hence why they get they've gone deep 2 years in a row. However, I do fully expect Cardiff to win on the weekend. Actually, I think it's a good time to play them. We don't know what their injury profile is coming out of the Currie Cup this weekend, if indeed it is the same sort of squad makeup that they had in the URC this year and throughout the Currie Cup. And you know, to lose it once last year, maybe in the final, if it is the same sort of player profile, may give you that edge to go on and win a couple of games. However, it's quite disheartening to do it twice in a row in the same manner. So yeah, I think again for Cardiff, I think it's a good time to be playing the Lions, and it's a nice little start at the Arms Park.
I also wonder as well if potentially you could pick up a bit of a scalp, just based on the fact that they might underestimate Cardiff. They might be looking at, you know, kind of the issues that Cardiff have had, and obviously now losing head coach as well. They might not have, you know, as well as having played very recently, they might not have done their prep, might not have done their homework.
Are you implying that South Africans might be quite confident people?
I'm not saying anything because I don't want angry tweets.
I will say this because I don't have a Twitter. South Africans are incredibly confident and cocksure, and they usually have a right to be. So, you know, fair enough. But yeah, I do think, I think unless there's been some as far as I can tell, the Lions, they might have done some decent recruitment, but you've sort of got Boom Bench on the flag. I'm having a quick look. I haven't seen anyone.
Decent players.
My lack. I mean, Rabs Matwane is someone who everyone loves, but I still think they're quite, like, you know, Lombard has been good at fly half, but sort of tends to be a bit, you know, you can have terrible games. Again, I haven't seen anything like change of coaching. I don't know if they're planning on changing their attack up, but I said it seems to be very heavily focused on turnovers and being heavy at the breakdown.
And that's just from what I've seen, they've only brought in 4 players this season, and they've had a real low turnover of staff by the looks of it. On the whole, the likes of PJ Botha, the 27-year-old hooker, I think is a good player. He's signed a contract extension, so I think it's going to pretty much be as you were for the Lions last season, for this season. And am I right in saying you beat them at the Arms Park last year?
Yeah, again, and I said it was basically because it was a pretty terrible conditions. I know horrible conditions in Cardiff during the middle of the rugby season. Who'd have thought it? You know, we basically went to a long kicking game, but it was basically trying to find grass touch and stuff, and giving them the ball, and then relying on backing our defence, which by that point had sorted a lot of his issues. Actually, not mid season. It was just after the Six Nations. But my point still stands. That seems to be the way that you get at the Lions. And I think with the sort of signings we've made in our pack, again, we've got people who are more physical counter ruckers as opposed to out and outs. It's not, you don't have Thomas Young Stardust, but you have Tame Basham who can just take it up the jumper and make hard yards. We don't have Seb Davis and all his athletic handling. We've got George Knott, who is a workhorse and will smash rucks for days. I think that's where I think it's probably improving those aspects of our pack.
Yeah.
Again, it's going to be a test for the outside backs. I think, because I'm not entirely sure if we're going to get Adams fit and ready to play straight away. Did we haven't left the right wing 13? As I said, 13 terrifies me because I just do not know. Are we going to be starting with Harry Millard in there, and then Ocean Darwin Lewis, who is a young lad and I think still eligible for under-20s. He was at the under-20s World Championship. Are we going to have to throw him in that early? Or are we going to be looking at more emergency wing options? I don't know.
Would you like?
And that's tough. Sorry, Nick. And I was just going to throw into the mix as well. I think out of the 4 regions, I think arguably this is Cardiff's game is the most important one where we pick up a win. Just in my opinion, both the Dragons and Ospreys are away from home, and probably it's more performance and what we can get out of it rather than the pressure on there being a win. I think that whilst there's a good opportunity for Scarlets to pick up a win at home against Munster, they're fairly probably evenly matched teams, and again it could go either way. But I think this is based on the current situation and everything that's gone on this week, and the fact then that Cardiff go away to Munster in week 2. I think this is a really important. I don't want to say must win, but I think things can quickly slip away from you, as you saw with the Dragons last season. When no wins quickly rack up, losing becomes a habit, the same as winning does. When it's Munster away before you have Connacht at home, and traditionally you can't buy a win against Connacht, let alone
the last couple of seasons, to be fair.
Oh no, it totally is, and there were some decent performances against Connacht, but ultimately they've managed to grind out the win. And then obviously Dragons are going to get a monkey off the back in week 4, so that you could, what you don't want to be is, what I'm getting at is you don't want to be 0-4, which could happen very quickly, and then there's a major problem there. So I think it's not must win, but I think it's very close for Cardiff now, just to kick off the season well at home.
I was just going to ask Harley and anybody, how much game time are you hoping Tom Bowen gets this season?
I'm go with the cop out. So I'm hoping he gets the right amount of game time for his development. The thing is, he showed it again against Leinster that he's just electric. I mean, just has some sort of X factor, which I think all teams need. But you shouldn't rely on it. But if you need someone to just pull out a magic moment, he's clearly showing whenever he's played for Cardiff that he's ready. Steph Emanuel as well is showing that he's very good at the centre. Unfortunately, he is going to be behind a very good 12 in Ben Thomas, who he will be missing weeks in the season due to Wales call-ups and rests. But they show well. Tom Bowen is the archetypical Matt Sherratt left wing. He's incredibly quick. He's agile. Actually, he tackles above his weight as well. I think he's actually quite underrated with how good he can tackle. Despite being a smaller man, his aerial game's quite good. I think a key play for us this season, who we need to get fit, just purely because of where he has been playing, is Jacob Beetham, because he's a big lad. He gives us a different option at 15 compared to like the Cam Winter or the Ewan Lloyd. He's also been playing a lot of, he's been shoehorned in at 13 a fair bit as well. And he has been fit. And again, he also he's one of the few people I've seen coming through Cardiff who can kick more than about 5 yards. He's got a heck of a boot on him, which helps. Particularly in a team that struggles to get out of their 22.
Yeah.
Having someone who can just ping it back even when the wind's blowing up off the taff.
It's an interesting point, actually, the Tom Bowen one, because I think I'd start him on the bench. I'd bring him off the bench in the early rounds, and the reason why I'd bring him off the bench is because, and you think from this game on the weekend's perspective, you've got a Lions team coming over that are potentially battered and bruised from where they've gone really deep in the Curry Cup. You don't know what sort of personnel they're coming over with. You unleash him from the bench with 20 minutes to go, it could cause chaos for opposition defenses where they're tired. The Curry Cup season is starting to kick in. They're away from home. They've had all the travel into them as well, because I don't know how they've split it up, but the Curry Cup was only on Saturday, so they've got a full travel week this week as well.
Yeah.
On top of all that, to have the ability to unleash someone like Tom Bowen off the bench then with 20 minutes to go. Obviously, it's going to depend on where you are in the game. If you don't want to be chasing it too much, but he is going to offer that X factor, and especially if you can give him plenty of space, or even bring him in on close quarter stuff, whereby you're sort of bringing him in opposite, tired tight head props and tired loose head props and so on and so forth to create those, because that's what Jockey would be very good at, looking around the deep there, going, right, how do we get Bowen into the game here on 60, 70 minutes and get him a one-on-one with a type 5 forward, in and out, bit of footwork, off he goes, and you're in behind the line. So yeah, personally, if I was picking a team this weekend, I'd start with the experience, and bring him off the bench, and I hope it does it just the way modern rugby's going now. There are some players, I think, that sort of their playing style suits them coming off the bench, almost
Yeah.
like a super sub type thing. Like Ollie Solskjaer was for Man United back in the day, where if you needed a goal, you'd stick him on up front. He'd get you one. Whereas, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I think it may hinder his starting ability in years to come. Where I just think he'd be so potent against tired defences. Why would you not want him on the field fresh for 20, 30 minutes at the end of a fixture?
I can't
obviously
remember. Oh, sorry, Harley. I was
Okay.
just going to say, I can't remember who it was. It was one of the coaches at the Women's World Cup. Said that your starting 15 is not necessarily your best 15. It's your most cohesive 15. They're the people that you're starting, but there are going to be people in your squad that, as you quite rightly said, Dan, are better off the bench and are better as an impact. So I think it is the way that modern rugby is going. It is a full 23, and it's not just thinking of, okay, who are my best 15 and let's try and stick them all on at the same time. Sometimes some people are just better off coming off as impact.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the big issue is obviously no Jockey's gone. This point's become slightly less relevant unless the new coach and brains trust sticks with it. But there's been, Jockey towards the end of last season was increasingly going towards the 6-2 and having that forward power. And the problem is then if you've got a wing as your outside, as your sort of back cover, when you're already quite stretched at centre, I mean, it might be worth doing it just because we don't have another 13 anyway. So actually, if you've got Josh Adams on the wing, you have him covering 13. I hate it. I really do. I really fucking hate long-term listeners might have realised this, but I fucking hate the Josh Adams at 13 experiment. But that might just be the only thing we've got to do. I mean, I think that's a big reason why we signed Johan Lloyd, is almost more intentionally to be the number 23. And I'm sure he has something to say that, and he wants to be 10. But having a guy who can cover pretty much 10 outwards, and let's be honest, he probably could do a job at 9. I don't know what quality of job, but I reckon if you asked him, he would do a job at 9.
Yeah,
I think that does weaken you there. But I mean, I think we, especially with the Elijah Edgins injury on top of Mason Grady, I think we're so paper thin in the backs. No.
Yeah,
and we are quite low. Weirdly,
Yeah.
we're quite, despite having signed wingers, we are quite low on wingers.
And I think this is the problem that Cardiff are going to have, well, every team will have, the squad depth is obviously an issue. We all know that. And you may be right, actually, the Johan Lloyd again. May suit coming off the bench. He can play 10, he can play 15. I think he's even covered on the wing when he was at Bristol and places like that. So we know he can
I think
cover
he played at
across
the
the back
centre as
line.
well.
Yeah, he's done wing. I think he's done wing 10, 12, fullback. I can't remember if he's done 13, but
I don't. I think. Yeah.
but
13's a
I'd rather he
specialist
didn't.
position.
But
I
the
think
problem
I
is
think
we don't have
13's
any. We don't have that too many specialist 13s.
no, and for me it's
And the
exactly
Cardiff
that.
system, the 13's usually an extra winger more than anything. It's the defence, so you need a good
This-
defensive mindset.
You,
Which,
you
again,
need
it's not
you
Johan
need
Lloyd.
someone that can defend at 13, that's able to run plays, that's able to organize and orchestrate your defensive line, someone that's able to pick shape and players that are out the back, someone that can organize your defensive width and manage your line speed. I don't think Johan Lloyd's your answer there. The Dragons have been looking for it. For me, it's a specialist position at 13, if not from an attacking perspective, definitely from a defensive perspective, because you're so isolated there if you get it wrong. Every team wants to attack the 13 channel because depending on where you are on the field, you may have wingers in at halves or wingers drop, depending on what your D structure is. And you get targeted because if you can get outside that 13, you inevitably get to an edge and create an overload on that outside winger. So I don't think Johan Lloyd's going to be your answer to fill in there, unfortunately.
Yes, I don't think he's the answer. I just think it might end. I think we're that desperate. I think because otherwise we are looking at Harry Millard and Josh Adams, our senior 13 cover. So God knows what's going to end up happening. So I think I know we've got rid of Roy Jennings, so yeah, we'll see. Anyway, so the prediction league is now back. It is new and it is new and unimproved because God knows how this is going to work. So the only real change, so a reminder for those who weren't here and for our new presenters, is we give margins of victory. So you'd say for Ulster Dragons, we say Ulster by 10, whatever, or you say Dragons by 3. It used to be then whoever was closest to results, if it, say Ulster won by 2, the person who said Dragons by 3 was closer and they get most points. That's changed now. You have to have the right result. You have to pick the right team to win. Then it goes on margin of victory. And then whoever's got closest is 4 points, then 3, 2, 1. And then it all gets totaled up at the end. I haven't decided because we haven't got Judgment Day this year. I don't know if we're going to just say all derbies are worth double or not. That'll be a decision for when we get to the derbies. In future rounds, we will ask a friend of the pod, Jamie, we'll send him the results. But for this round one, we're all just going to do it because I imagine no one here is going to game the system like Lee used to.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, yeah.
No, there's no allegedly. Lee was very open about him gaming the system.
Right, can you just run over the rules? Yeah, margin of error, because I had my abacus out on the desk, but I ran out of fingers and toes as well, so I couldn't quite work out.
Basically, you predict the result, who you think is going to win by how many points, and then whoever gets closest gets 4 points, second closest. But if you are closer in the margin of error, but you've picked the wrong team to win, because you've been hedging your bets and going by one side by 1 or whatever, just because you're hoping to catch the others out, you go right down to the bottom. So okay. if all 4 of us get the wrong team, then it'll carry on. It'll be normal thing. It's going to be very complicated. I'll deal with all the maths. Don't worry about that. You guys just focus on getting wrong prediction or getting more wrong predictions than I do.
There you go. You heard it here first. He's rigged the system already, so Harley comes top of the because
I'm going to have to.
I have belief in Dr. Harley.
I'm going to have to go ahead and then keep Canaveral to find someone to assist me with this all season. Come on.
As I said, the rap sheet is available to all presenters, so they can go and check the maths and how things are done. No one does because it's a spreadsheet. Anyway, so we're going to go through, and in how I see the screen, Nick is up first. So Nick, if you can give me your predictions for Ulster Dragons, Bulls Ospreys, Scarlets Munster, and Cardiff versus Lions. Please.
Okay, Ulster by 10.
Just copying my answer there.
I can't see it. Anyway, I'm not looking. Hmm. Bulls by 21. Munster by 6. And Cardiff by 9.
Cool. So next down the bottom left is Dan. So same order, please.
Okay, so the Dragons are going to lose away in Belfast. It's going to be Ulster by 5. I'm going to nail my colours to the mast and go Dragons 2 bonus points. We're going to score 4. Come on, the boys. We're going to score 4, and we're gonna come within 7. Bulls by 15. Scarlets by 3. And this last one, Cardiff by 10.
Excellent. Hattie?
Okay, I'm terrible at this, which I'm going to preface. If anybody has ever watched Women's Rugby Treehouse, I cursed every single team in last year's Women's Six Nations. So just go for it. I'm going to say Ulster by 14. I'm going to say the Bulls by 18. Scarlets by 10. And Cardiff by 2.
Excellent. So, and I've got Ulster versus Dragons as 6-point win for Ulster, Bulls by 15, Scarlets by 4, and Cardiff I've picked to win by 5. And I to add some extra flavour like Dan did, I think Cardiff are going to pull away to a very good lead, and then it's going to be incredible squeaky bum time then for the last 30 minutes. And I'll come back here next Monday weeping and saying, I don't know how on earth this has happened. Why do they keep doing this to me? Jamie had the right idea and left.
Well, at least we'll have some actual rugby misery what goes on the pitch.
Oh yeah, I am seriously looking forward to some actual rugby misery. It's as opposed to rugby adjacent misery. I think that's
all performance. It's all performance. Come on, if we sat here, even if we get 4 losses, but the performances are good. If we're in the race, if it's nip and tuck, it goes either way, then I'm happy with that.
That's it. I mean, the big issue people have been saying is that the Welsh sides haven't been competitive, which I strongly counter. I think for the most part they have been. Even Dragons at parts over the last couple of seasons have shown they can be competitive. And I think we've shown that we don't need that much more investment to improve it.
No.
But we do need a bit more.
I just think there's some fixtures that we, from a all Wales perspective, really, there's some games where, we haven't fired a shot. Nobody's gone away to Leinster really and fired a shot. We've all struggled away from home, really. There's some teams then that have done much better playing at home. Cardiff has done well, picked up some good results, the Ospreys, etc. There are just some games where I'm like, oh, we need to, the performance needs to be better. We need to get something out of these games, even away from home. This is league rugby. If you can pick up bonus points in every away game and win your fixtures at home, then you were right up there. Right up there. This is league rugby now. But anyway, there you go. Let's see what comes of it.
Not to pick up on the Dragons, but if they got a bonus point in every single game, they triple their points tally for last season.
It's not hard, is it?
Yeah, but I mean, that's really good. It's not hard to start shooting up the number of points.
It is, and that's the big thing in there, but that for me then is that's a level up in your performance. If you're able to do these things, if you are able to go away to Thomond Park, out to Leinster and pick up some even if you lose, I don't know, 48-30 odd out in Leinster, but you've really troubled them. You've scored 4 tries. You've come away with a point. Brilliant. That's a result for me.
And I'll be honest, I think I'm starting to think of improving Dan's motivational hour for the pod, because actually even I feel better now about all these games.
Come on, we're all in it. I can, get some Michael Sheen-esque stuff out here now over the next.
So if the listeners and the viewers on YouTube, if you want to hear more of Dan's motivational speeches, please leave comments, leave reviews. If you want less of it, again, leave a comment, leave a review. We might ignore it, we might not, but that's for you to find out. Anyway, on that slightly more uplifting note, I'd like to thank my co-hosts Dan, Nick, and Hattie, and I'd like to thank everyone else for listening. Nostar.
Nostar.
I'll start.
That's that.